What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Sitting across from me this week and every week is Desra.
And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
You didn't say it nearly as sing-songy as I did.
I did not.
No. I got accused of being monotone in the comments.
Monotone.
Monotone.
Yes.
I'm very monotone. I've got a deep baritone voice, and sometimes I'm monochromatic.
Monochromatic.
Sometimes I'm black. Oh, damn it. Just put
I
it
like this.
Just okay.
We get some film grain going.
I don't know. I feel like there should be some like silent movie music.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
We're back.
Des, last week we started talking about one of my favorite genres of game, the 3DO.
Yay.
It's not really.
Full motion video. Hooray.
Yeah. It's not the Sega CD. Things could be worse.
Can I have Trends We're Glad Are Dead for 500, Alex?
You know that Night Trap is coming back?
No.
Xbox One and PS4 remastered and re-released.
Oh, just a remaster, the original game? Just
Oh yeah.
Ah.
It's coming back.
Not just like a reboot. Because a reboot would
this
be
is
pointless.
Dana Plato, the original cast. It's the same video.
Wow.
It's okay. Next week, why we love FMV games. Yeah?
No.
Yeah?
Because I can only lie so much.
All right.
Yeah.
But we talked about the 3DO last week.
Yes, we did.
And we want to talk about it more this week.
We do.
All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about it more.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I guess that means I'm starting off.
Yeah, totally. You always start off. Let's not break tradition.
Let's not. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about a game. So I've been kind of harsh on the system so far, and I think rightfully so. There's a lot of things that it needs to be harsh about, but this is a game that I played for the system that absolutely blew me away. It's another of the list of why doesn't Des know about this game beforehand, but. What are you going to do? This is Another World, also known as Out of This World. Yay. It was developed, designed, everything you can imagine by Eric Chahi.
Delphine.
Delphine, yes. Delphine Games was the publisher.
Oh, was it?
But he basically made this thing literally from the ground up completely by himself.
Wow.
I mean, he wrote it on, actually, it's kind of at the bottom of my notes, but I'll just skip ahead to that. An Amiga 500 with 1 megabyte of RAM and a 20 megabyte hard drive, a camcorder, and a video recorder to record some of the animations that rotoscope them in.
Okay.
He wrote this in assembly.
Wow.
Yeah, this absolutely blew me away.
Do you want to tell people what that means for anyone who?
So basically, if you're looking at computers like computer languages, modern ones like Java or Python or C++, they're interpreted languages. They're kind of close to humans, English, and you write that in, and the computer kind of translates that into what it needs to. At the very, very basic, at the very, very bottom is called machine code, which basically is, switches on and off, on and off. One step above that is assembly, where basically there's no interpretation happening. You're pretty much as close to the metal as you're going to get.
Right.
So it's a way to write incredibly efficient programs, but it is very, very difficult and very taxing. So he wrote this in assembly. He wrote the game engine himself. He wrote basically everything from the ground up. It's absolutely astonishing. One thing that's very famous about the game is the opening animation sequence. That's not an animation. That's actually the game code running through and doing it. So it's basically
this is real time.
Yeah, this is the game playing itself, pretty much, instead of an opening animation. And then eventually you regain the controls.
See, so knowing that this game actually came out on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, I knew that had to be true because I knew they couldn't just have a huge video file in the cartridge.
Right.
But it still always baffled me every time I saw it because it's kind of beautiful even to this day.
And what the biggest difference that made this stand out graphically was it is vector-based.
Really?
Yes. So all the animation is vector and polygon based. So vectors, if you don't know, you can have like a bitmap for an image is a bunch of pixels all in line. The problem is if you blow that up, it gets all weird looking. That's why when you take a picture off the web and you try to blow it up into a poster, it looks all blah.
See all of our thumbnails.
Right. So a vector isn't really all these dots are here. It just says there's a point here and a point here and make a line between them.
Right.
So you can blow that up as much as you want, and you're not going to lose any resolution.
So next week we're going to talk about why we love the Vextruct.
Yeah. No.
Oh, damn it.
Well,
I don't get to do anything I want.
I guess we could.
Out of this world.
Oh, so that's kind of the technology behind it. So that in and of itself makes this a huge monument. But what really makes it amazing is the gameplay. And I think I told Brian this off the air. I was playing this for about 30 seconds. My daughter, she was 10 at the time. She just had a birthday, so she's now 11.
Oh.
I know, right?
I was like, did we go through a time warp?
Happy birthday. Anyways, she watched me play for about 30 seconds. She's like, this is just like Limbo. I was like, yeah, absolutely. It is exactly that.
20 years prior.
20 years prior, yeah. So it is, you start off, there's this really cool opening animation, kind of gives you, you're this rebel scientist with a particle accelerator, something goes wrong, and you're just thrown into another world.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens is the thing you were in kind of falls into a pool of water, and if you're not really sure what's going on,
you die.
You see that, and you see either, oh, that's my character, great, and these tentacles grab you and you die.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I need to swim away from that. And the game progresses like that. You're basically set up in these situations. There's no HUD. There's no dialogue. There is dialogue, but it's this weird alien speak which you can't understand. Right. There's no arrow saying, yo, this way, or anything like that. You just need to figure it out as if you were a human stranded on this alien world. What really makes it stand out as well is, so you've got that, so if you're familiar with the Limbo kind of gameplay, you've got that going for you. But there's just this emotional content, and as you read about the creation of it, as Eric Chahi was designing it, he kind of made the game engine and sort of improvised the story as he was going along.
Oh, really?
And what he says is the different phases of the game reflect his emotional state as he was making the game. So the very beginning, and even without hearing this, you get the sense of just loneliness, right, and just completely barren there by yourself. And he says that was because he was completely on his own on this project. And eventually you get a little sidekick. Well, not little; he's bigger than you. Alien partner, and it's just you really get this sense of an actual place. It's brilliantly done. There's just one other little. So my Des Nugget for this one.
Love it.
You mentioned okay. It was for the Super Nintendo. Well, here's a list of the ports that came out, the things that came out. The original version was the Amiga and the Atari ST. Uh-huh. It was ported to the 3DO, the Apple II GS, the Atari Jaguar, Mac OS, MS-DOS, Sega CD, Sega Genesis, SNES. Uh-huh. By the way, the Atari Jaguar port happened in 2012.
Yeah, I've got that in the other room.
Oh, you do? Okay. Then there was a 15th anniversary edition, which we're going to skip. The 20th anniversary edition, which just came out recently. iOS, Linux, Android, Microsoft Windows, Nintendo 3DS, OS X, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, Symbian, Wii U, Windows Mobile, and Xbox One.
It's on everything.
Yes, it is on everything. Here's the Des Nugget. When it was ported to... it was the Apple II GS, or no, the Sega CD. They wanted to change the music.
Okay.
And the music was actually created by a friend of Eric Chahi's, and he said, no, the music has to stay. They're like, no, we really want to change the music, going back and forth. And at one point, Eric Chahi actually set up, and this is something that's not going to make sense to you younger viewers, but a fax loop. So back in the old days, a fax machine, you would basically drop a piece of paper in the top, it would scan it and fax it. And the piece you scanned would spit out the bottom. Yeah. If you were really awful or wanted to make a point, you would write, don't change the music, don't change the music, don't change the music on a sheet of paper or 2 sheets of paper. Then you would tape those 2 pieces of paper together, tape it around, making a loop, and hit send. Mm-hmm. And it would just scroll through and send page after page after page of that. That's not the reason they kept the original music. The reason was Eric's lawyers were better than their lawyers, but I just kind of like that. I do.
Also amazing about the Sega CD port.
Yes.
It's the only one that has the sequel on it. Heart of the Alien.
Yeah, the sequel is kind of an interesting story, though. Eric Chahi really had nothing to do with that.
Right.
I'm probably slaughtering your name, by the way. I'm sorry. What he did say, though, was if you were going to do a sequel, I think it would be neat to have it from the point of view of the alien. Mm. So the sequel is the alien story, but what he meant was Another World's story done from the point of view of the alien, not what happened after.
I've played the sequel. It's okay, but it definitely doesn't have the genius that Out of This World has. Obviously, I played it on PS4 recently too. It doesn't feel great like I thought it did as a kid. But I will say the 3DO version, the best looking version.
Yes. No question. Yeah.
And on the PC when I played it, and Genesis and Super Nintendo and all those, there was a lot of just like flat colors. Like this area here is just gonna be all dark blue, and then this back here is gonna be all black.
Yeah.
And then the 3DO got all of this shading and like almost like painting like backgrounds. It definitely got a huge visual improvement.
Yeah, it's one of the few times when something was ported to 3DO and it was significantly better. No question about that. And so don't take my word for it. Or Brian and I, of course, are gaming experts. But there's this little known guy. I don't know if you've heard of Hideo Kojima.
Rings a bell,
yeah. He said it is one of the 5 most influential games on him personally.
Influential, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe we should just leave it at that.
Yeah. And one other thing, we haven't had this referenced in a while, but the Museum of Modern Art's, most influential and important video games. Yeah, this was one of the first ones to be inducted to that.
Right on.
So
nice.
Yeah, do your homework. If you don't have a 3DO, that's no excuse. You can play this again. If it has a screen, chances are you can play this game on it right now.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't. And personally, I don't think it holds up, but it's definitely worth looking back at because at the time there was nothing like it.
Yeah, it really is out of this world.
So I'm going to bring up probably the strangest game in my 3DO collection.
Okay.
I think anybody who collects for 3DO will absolutely know what game I'm going to talk about already. It's a Japanese-only game, and it is called Dr. Hauser.
Dr. Hauser.
Yeah, who knew that they made a whole game based on the Neil Patrick Harris sitcom from the early 90s, Doogie Howser, MD.
And with that, Des quits the show.
No. Dr. Hauser, not even spelled the same way.
No.
Like I said, Japanese only. Came out in 1994.
Okay.
So it's by Riverhill Software, and I will tell you this about them. That was... yeah.
That's
pretty much it. No. So let's put this in perspective here. If you're looking at this footage behind me, you're going to say, hey, Brian, that game looks real similar to 2 games that we've talked about quite a bit. One, Alone in the Dark.
Yes.
Yeah, but it runs faster than Alone in the Dark, smoother, and all of the backgrounds are rendered in...
Sorry, guys.
Are all rendered in 3D, which means that on the fly you can switch from first person to third person to an overhead view. The overhead view looks remarkably similar to Contra 3, the Alien Wars. Remember those levels where you twist the whole levels with the L and R? That was weird, but that's what that looks like. Now, the funny thing about this is that I had my time frames all screwed up. And so when I was playing through this, I was like, wow, this is such a Resident Evil ripoff too. Because every time you go through a door, it does that door loading screen thing.
Right.
Anytime you go up a ladder, it does the ladder thing. Anytime you go upstairs, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
All a little bit faster than Resident Evil, but it's there. And it's like, wow, this is such a total ripoff. This came out 2 years before Resident Evil 1. This is like that unknown game that like was like the yeah. It's the missing link between Alone in the Dark and Resident Evil.
Okay.
It's that like we all know that Sweet Home was the game that inspired Alone in the Dark, which
yes, Brian, we all know that.
But we didn't know that Dr. Hauser was this stopgap title.
Interesting.
So it's funny because this game starts up and it's got like this dynamic music. So anytime something creepy happens, the music swells and gets all like creepy, and it just fits all really great together, and it really adds to the suspense. And you're not playing against enemies. So this is really a departure from Alone in the Dark and Resident Evil because you're playing against the house that you're in.
Ooh.
The house is sentient.
Okay.
Like, why wouldn't
I like it already.
Second you walk in the front door, it tries to kill you with a chandelier.
Oh, so it was literally like pieces of the house are... Oh,
yeah.
That's cool.
There's traps everywhere, and there's like things falling down, and like as you go through, you learn what to avoid. There are no enemies. It is very Resident Evil and Alone in the Dark, like when you walk around and you pick up puzzle pieces.
Sure.
It's like, here's a key. Where does it go? Let's go find the door that it belongs to, and let's figure out how to get across this big gap in the floor. That kind of stuff. It's to be honest, maybe it just came out a little too late, but I have no idea why this didn't make it to the States.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good all around. And I will say this about River Hill Soft, who again didn't make any other great games, except this one little game called Overblood, which if you're a PlayStation 1 fanboy like I was, you were looking for anything Resident Evil, like any kind of Resident Evil clone after we played RE1. And this game called Overblood came out, and it seemed like a total ripoff. It was sort of like Resident Evil in space. It was made by the Dr. Hauser crew. Right? So it wasn't actually a Resident Evil ripoff. It was just a spiritual successor to Dr. Hauser.
Right.
And it just
kind
happened
of
to come
sandwiched
out.
between Resident Evil.
Yeah, because there's no way they could have... it came out the same... Overblood came out the same year as Resident Evil 1.
Right.
So they didn't even have like the dev cycle to make this happen. It was just kind of coincidental.
That seems like it might point to some interesting research to see actually how much literally there was. Was there any overlap with the people who worked for both teams? Or
that sounds like a Des Nugget.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like a Brian Nugget. Moving on.
So here's where we're gonna go into. We're gonna say Des was wrong, kind of. When I first went through and was going through some of these games, Brian handed me this right here, actually. Yay. That's going to look crazy on the lens there. All right. It's Super Wing Commander. Now, I was familiar with the later installments, Mark Hamill and big furry things on screen. Yes, Malcolm McDowell.
Kilrathi?
Overacting. Kilrathi. Yeah. I actually knew that. I was trying to look like less of a geek by being funny and say, yeah, but Kilrathi. Which are based on the Kazin.
My show is to look more like a geek.
Oh, then hell yeah, we'll play that game. The Kilrathi were based on the Kazin, which are actually in Larry Niven's oh my gosh. Not Real Space.
Real Housewives.
No. Oh my gosh. My geek cred just took a drop. The real something. Anyways.
The Wild Wild West.
Larry Niven's books. They're a commons, the Puppeteers. Gosh, man. Ringworld books. Yes, it's the Ringworld books, but they're based in another universe called the Real something.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Until you said Ringworld, I didn't know what you're talking about.
And also, to add on top of that, the animated Star Trek The Animated Series had a Kazin pilot, but which they couldn't do in the actual television series because, of course, you couldn't do that live action, and also they didn't have the rights.
Can I get my Des Nuggets with sweet and sour sauce? I think I just bought the 20-pack.
I want it with the Szechuan sauce.
Sweet.
Yay!
I'm making a McDonald's joke.
1988, right? Was that? Yeah.
What's that? This?
No, the Szechuan sauce. It's kind of a big thing on the Rick and Morty now. They brought it back, but honestly, that was such a good thing. All right.
I just had to check the date because it had nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, this is 1994.
Yeah.
This is one of the rare semi-exclusives that we're talking about. Most of the things on 3DO were ports from something else or were released for a bunch of stuff. This only came out for the 3DO and the Mac. What it is basically it's Wing Commander 1, Wing Commander Secret Missions, and then a new campaign made just for this. So in a lot of ways, you could call it Wing Commander 1.5. Oh, yeah. There was a Wing Commander 2, but this is kind of in between there. It's the original gameplay from Wing Commander, but graphically improved in a lot of ways. The graphics, look a whole lot better, especially like, let's say, here's your cockpit view. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Can never tell until the last minute.
The cockpit looks a lot different. The animation of the characters look different. There's kind of real voice acting as opposed to just kind of digitized barking. So there's a lot of improvements as far as that goes. One thing that's not improved and kind of made me go a little crazy when I first played this was, let's call it the clutch cargo animation style. I'm not even going to explain that reference. You either know it or you don't. Look it up. But basically what we have are static images with the mouth moving when they talk.
Yeah.
Which I guess was groundbreaking at the time, but looks awful and dated now. And that's kind of, where I said Des was wrong. This is where I started out. I started out playing this, like, oh, God, this is... Why? Why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? Okay, maybe it was groundbreaking in the day, but it's just painful now. But you know what? Wing Commander is super important to the history of gaming. Without Wing Commander, you wouldn't have a Rogue Squadron. You wouldn't have, in a lot of ways, Wing Commander was what proved that you could put some money into the production values of the game and make it pay off.
Yeah.
We laugh about the full motion video now, but it was huge and groundbreaking, and actually, looks pretty good, honestly. It was some of the first games that got real Hollywood talent behind it, and now that's just a given. You're going to have a big, grade A title. You're going to have celebrities doing the voices in it.
And if you like Star Citizen and you're looking forward to that game being finished, well, that's where this came from. It's the same guy. Yeah. It's Chris Roberts.
Yeah. As far as the gameplay itself goes, one interesting little tool which gets a little frustrating sometimes. It kind of does fake 3D.
Yeah.
Because actually rendering 3D objects in space takes a lot of computing power. What doesn't take a lot of computing power is, let's say, have an asteroid and have, say, 5 or 6 different bitmaps of how that asteroid would look from different angles, right, and then have the computer figure out, well, your ship's looking at it from this angle, so we're going to show you this bitmap, and as you fly around, we're just going to show you different bitmaps. Yeah. And that actually works a good chunk of the time until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's horrible. And you'll have an enemy ship that's flying here, also just, to your perspective, randomly makes this weird flip, and it's a little jarring.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I found that was really interesting about these games, and if you haven't played them, you play a mission, and in most sim games, whatever, if you die during a mission, you fail the mission, or if you fail the mission, I should say, you die, right?
Okay.
In Wing Commander games, you can fail the objective and still live, and it actually changes the story. So if you go out with your crew and you fly and you fail enough missions, eventually the story is going to turn from you being offensive and attacking to also like humanity's on the defense.
Yeah.
And to the point where, maybe spoilers, your big mothership, the Tiger's Claw, gets destroyed.
Yeah. And people start distrusting you. They think you might be a traitor.
Yeah. And also, it's called Wing Commander because you are actually in charge of the other ships. You can command them and say, hey, attack that target there. Don't attack. Radio silence. So that's
not the pinnacle of the series.
No, but it is a good. It's a good representation of what it was about. And the graphics are improved. There are one little squidgy thing with the improved graphics, because the cockpit looks all so cool and spiffy now. You've actually lost some of the visual. The windows are smaller, and because this was designed for a TV rather than a computer monitor, you lose some resolution. So whereas before you had these really cool like percentage-based damage readouts, now it's just kind of yellow and green bars.
Oh, yeah, never thought of that.
Yeah, it's I think play Wing Commander because it's important to the history of gaming. If you're a gaming fan or want to pretend to be one, you should be aware of this series, and this is not a bad place to start.
Does anybody pretend to be a gaming fan? Is that a thing?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh. Well, if you're a pretend gamer, thanks for watching. Maybe we'll teach you something today.
How about if you want to pretend to wax intellectual about this kind of stuff?
Well, one of the things I like to wax intellectual about is my love of LucasArts adventure games.
Yay! Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And every time I find another point-and-click adventure game, mm-hmm. I compare it to LucasArts adventures of the time. And let me tell you something. The 3DO had its very own LucasArts style point-and-click adventure game. Yeah, I threw in a style at the last minute. This is The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes, the case of the serrated scalpel. Now, don't confuse this with the ICOM simulation games that came out for the Sega CD and the TurboGrafx CD.
I wouldn't dream of it.
That were all like full motion video, as we discussed earlier. Not so fun to play. This is very fun to play, in fact. And as soon as you boot it up, what you notice is that it looks just like a Lucasfilm adventure game in a very specific time period of those games, too. There was a time right around the time of like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in Loom, and even the very first Secret of Monkey Island, where they were all getting released as standard EGA games, as 16-color games. And then everyone was upgrading their graphics card to VGA. So what they did was they took the exact same games and just added kind of like gradients everywhere.
Oh,
right? And so they made their games
version.
VGA, and they like resold them in like a brand new box for like the $50 all over again, or $40, whatever they were at the time. And there were so many times as a kid I was like, oh, I've already played Monkey Island, but I want to play it in VGA.
Colors, yeah.
Right? Like I've never changed. This is just me as a kid is the same as me now.
Can I just say, as consumers, can we stop falling for this?
I haven't yet. It's been 30 years since this happened, and I keep doing it.
Right. It's the same game, yes, but he has a blue hat.
Right. I just bought Out of This World on my PlayStation 4 for probably the 7th time in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never going to stop happening. But look at these graphics. Like, this looks like one of those LucasArts VGA games. It's like there's gradients everywhere, and it's still but the pixelated look. And it's pretty awesome. And the case is cool. It's about this actress who gets killed outside of her dressing room, and
like you do.
And immediately the police show up and they're like, this must be Jack the Ripper, but you know better, resident of 221B Baker Street,
because you're about 50 years later than Jack the Ripper. But anyways,
is that a thing? Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm really bad with my times. What is it? It's the late 19th century.
Yeah.
I'm bad with dates. So but you know, what's the name of this game? Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes knows better, and he knows that, you know, blah blah blah. This is not the work of said Jack the Ripper. Whatever, you know, just go along with it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's great, and it's really well written. It's well acted. There's a lot of voice acting. There was a PC version of this game that didn't have all the voice acting, and then when they brought it over to the 3DO, they got real people to play these characters from the game that's already been made, and the whole thing. So I read online somewhere where it sounded like a pretty good like PBS documentary.
Okay,
it's not too far off.
Yeah, all right.
So it's really well voice acted. They did everything with a blue screen. Remember blue screens?
Nope.
Green screens. Some people don't remember that.
When did that happen?
I don't know. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, it's just like all of a sudden it went from blue screens to green screens.
At some point, somebody realized that like people wore more blue than green.
Is that the reason?
I have no idea. I don't know. I couldn't wear this shirt.
Otherwise.
That's why we have a green screen.
Yay!
Yeah, this is just a really nice Manhattan apartment here. Gotham City apartment. Now where are we?
Australia?
I don't want to ever come back.
Yay.
Okay.
Hey, Sydney Opera House.
Just keep swimming.
Okay. There we go. We're back.
So there's not a whole lot to say here. This is a game by Mythos Software.
Okay.
And they made 6 games. Wow. 3 of which Sherlock Holmes games.
So they knew what they liked.
Yeah, but then soon after this game came out, they were never heard from again.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It was published by Electronic Arts, so, you know, the devil's still around. But
yeah, actually, speaking of companies and names and Electronic Arts, so I forgot to add this on Wing Commander, published by Origin.
Okay.
Eventually bought by EA. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the name Origin disappeared until it reappeared as their download service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
It's, people, I'm sure some people forgot, like, where Origin came from.
Yeah.
But the origin.
The origin of Origin.
Was. So, yeah, I don't want to talk too much about Sherlock Holmes. There's not a lot to say.
Do you know, was it based on an actual story, or was it original for the game?
That I don't know.
Okay.
What I will say is that it's, I always say that I don't like humorous games. Mm-hmm. And I always say that I really wish once, like I guess The Dig was sort of right, but I really wish that just for once we got like some big, real dark Lucasfilm adventure game, you know? And
I'd say The Dig is as close as you're going to get.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted something better. Right? And so anytime I play a game like Sherlock Holmes, and I go, "This is the game I was looking for," I'm like, man, I really missed that LucasArts humor.
Yeah.
So there is definitely something missing if you're a fan of the genre, but it's just quality. I love when you walk down the street and it's just alive, and there's pedestrians, and you talk to everybody, and it feels like London's bustling. You know? Good game.
Excellent.
Yeah, slow but good.
Good on you.
Good on me.
Well, not you. Mythos.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with this game. Yeah. Is it honorable mention time already?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I've got an honorable mention, which is, I think, going to be controversial. It's actually one of the most popular games for the 3DO. before it even became a pack-in, which eventually became a pack-in with the Panasonic version 3DO, it had sold 1 million units.
Oh.
And this is on a games console that did not sell that many consoles. This is 1995's Gex.
The Geico dude.
Yeah, not quite.
Huh.
Although that'd be an interesting crossover if someone can make those IPs work out. Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, and Gex was going to be the 3DO's Mario.
Until like a year later, the PlayStation got it.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was kind of another go to the 3DO has no exclusives.
Yeah.
Well, they have some, but it's for a side scroller, it was kind of weird. It's a 32-bit side scroller in a time when people were kind of going away from that. It's for a side scroller, it's fine. It's got an interesting look to it. The gameplay. I mean, there's only so much. Well, at this time, they weren't being very creative with the side scrolling. But
it's not fine.
It's not fine.
It is not even close to fine. It's definitely not fine.
Why is it not fine, Brian?
Because it makes my ears bleed.
That's the controversial part of this. Gex was voiced and created and written by Dana Gould.
Wait, the character himself was created by Dana Gould?
Well, the character is created by the company
Crystal Dynamics.
Yes,
I'm assuming,
but
is that right?
he wrote all the dialogue for it. This plot, from what I can see,
I'm gonna write an angry letter, dear.
Well, it was created by him and
Mr.
Rob Cohen, which is his writing partner.
Okay.
Rob Cohen is the person responsible for things like Triple X,
Play-Doh,
and the Fast and Furious movies.
Okay,
So-
you know what? I'm writing 3 letters. You're all getting letters tomorrow.
Yeah,
Do people send letters still?
yeah. Well, they send emails. There's an excellent article on Kotaku about this. Not so great moments in video game humor. How much of Dana Gould is too much?
Well,
By Mike Fahey.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point. Like, I love Dana Gould. The Dana Gould podcast is probably my favorite podcast. The Dana Gould Hour. It's one of my favorite podcasts. I think he's hilarious, really insightful, and he has been performing stand-up comedy since he was 17 years old. This is basically him just kind of rambling off into a mic for X amount of time, coming up with improvisations and riffs on what's happening on the screen.
Right.
But yeah, there's an awful lot of it. If you really want to get a sense for this, in that Kotaku article I just mentioned, they actually have a video that some monster/saint has gone through and isolated every audio thing Dana Gould has. It goes for 12 and a half minutes.
I made it through about 22 seconds, and I wanted to take a shotgun to my face.
12 and a half minutes without repeating. And this is for a platformer that probably is 2 hours of gameplay.
Can I be clear about something?
Yeah.
I have nothing against. I said Dana Plato. It's back on Night Trap.
Yeah.
I have nothing against Dana Gould. That's interesting. I think he's a great comedian. But just like Phil Hartman, who voiced Blasto, Captain Blasto on PlayStation 1, it's like you go into these things and you might not be a gamer. You might not quite understand that this is just going to be like 8 hours of your voice on a loop, and the third time you hear, talking about. I mean, it's just there's just all these like pop culture references, and at this point they're all outdated. You might like some half of them are like not even relevant anymore. It's like it's not his fault. You know what I mean? I'm not like trying to condemn the dude. The gameplay was great, and if you play it with the sound down, it's probably still good. It's still pretty good.
And here's one little connection to kind of bring everything together. That's only going to matter for me, Brian, and maybe like the 10 of you who watch us who are from the Worcester area and are our age. Remember the Worcester?
There's 10 people watching in Worcester.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
If you're from Worcester and you're actually watching this,
let us
comment
know
below.
if you're local.
Yeah, Coco, you're not local enough. That's not close enough.
But there was the Worcester Common Fashion Outlets, what used to be the Worcester Galleria.
Yep.
Right? And there was a place called Media Play. Remember Media Play?
Absolutely.
Do you remember inside Media Play, there was like a 6-foot-tall mural of Gex?
I do remember that.
One of my friends in high school painted that.
We have a cat.
There's a cat now.
It's awful.
And it's a games cat.
It's just awful.
Yeah. Actually, no. You people are wonderful.
Yeah.
It's not so much.
Oh, the games cats are awesome.
Yeah.
But the
games
thing.
cat. Oh,
Yeah.
Games Cat.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Jeremy Hosgood, if you're watching, good on you for that was actually his artwork. He made that in high school. They hired him to do it. It was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. What the hell is Gex? So
Right on.
yeah,
Good game though. Good game.
Yeah, no, it was good. You know, for game historians, and there was a 3D version later.
Oh, there were a couple 3D versions.
Yeah.
We won't get into that.
No, Enter the Gecko. That's right.
Yeah, and Deep Cover Gecko. Yeah, we'll talk about that on our Why We Love PlayStation or N64 episodes.
So maybe buy a copy, and Dana Gold will get like a royalty check for like 35 cents.
Yeah.
And all right.
Probably not. So my honorable mention, I don't even know if it should be a dishonorable mention. It's that controversial. I don't know what to think of it.
Okay.
This is Way of the Warrior. This is Naughty Dog's first game.
Oh, right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, if you got to put yourself back in the time that this game came out.
There's a lot of weird firsts with this console.
A lot of weird firsts, yeah. This is so strange. It's like let's take a team that's never made a game before, and let's just let them make whatever the most generic genre of game is at the time, which was 2D digitized acting fighters. So it's funny because as I was playing this today, I was looking at all the different inspirations that it had. There were 9 fighters and they were all digitized. So I was like Mortal Kombat. And they all have multiple fatalities.
Mortal
Kombat. The gameplay, the special moves are done with quarter circle moves. Street Fighter. Yeah. And the entire time the camera is zooming in and out depending on how close you are to your opponent, which is like every SNK Neo Geo game ever made.
Right.
Like I don't even like King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, all that stuff. So it's just a mess of like we took all of our favorite fighters and we smashed them together into one. Yeah. It's really goofy. It doesn't take itself seriously. At the time,
Naughty Dog will continue on with that.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, Jack and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot, they were kind of a goofy company before they finally hit Uncharted and Last of Us and stuff. And now they're all serious and dark, and I love them so much. Also had White Zombie soundtrack.
Now we're talking.
It's like just a whole album. Just
1994? 5?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I have the box right here.
Okay, yeah, because that's like... That's peak zombie right there.
Yeah, we'll name us some zombie albums. 94.
94. Okay. I'm a bad geek.
Okay, moving on. So some good soundtrack and interesting graphics, if nothing else. The weird thing about this was that when it came out, it got a lot of bad reviews. And the Des Nugget about this is that it wasn't the game's fault. The pack-in controller for the standard 3DO only registered up, down, left, and right on the D-pad. It didn't register the in-betweens.
So you couldn't do the
quarter
moves.
circles. You're trying to do all these moves, and you're just not pulling them off. You're pulling it off like 1 out of 10 times just because of luck.
But wouldn't they...
So there were better controllers out there that this one was obviously programmed with in mind, and so all the publications that were that reviewed it poorly all had another chance. They were informed about their mistake and saying, "Hey, here's the controller you should be using to let your readers know." Blah blah blah. The only publication that reviewed it, I want to say, was Die Hard Game Fan.
Okay,
and they gave it a much better score the second time around. Every other publication just ignored it, and so this has gone down in the annals of history as a horrible game, when really it was a horrible controller. Which, in all fairness, if everyone had the standard controller, why not make a game that works for that?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, you're making the game for the console. I mean, it's just it's a little hard to blame it on the reviewer to say, no, you didn't use the right controller. The controller that came with your system. You're supposed to buy our game and buy a better controller for it. And it's at least have like 2 different versions.
I mean, just look at that one screenshot. How awesome does this game look?
Can we get that up there?
I'll try to
get that up there.
I'll try to.
Yeah, definitely something that's not taking itself too seriously.
Yeah,
no question.
There's blood everywhere. It's like every other move's like a decapitation. That skull talks.
Let's go. Not well.
No.
By the look of it.
No. So this is just again a small sampling of the 3DO didn't have a massive library, especially here in the States.
No.
You want to get those Japanese porn titles? Let's get those over here. Send them to Without Parole Games at care of, I don't know. I don't have a post office box yet. I need to get one of those.
Probably.
Totally irrelevant. So why don't you comment below and tell us what your favorite 3DO titles are? Did you have one when you were younger? Like, did you pay the $700 and actually have one as a kid?
You didn't pay one.
If you did, you probably had a Neo Geo as well. Because those
Your
things
creepy uncle got you one. I know.
I am the creepy uncle. So, 3DO. What a weird history.
Yeah, it's like, I think we mentioned in the last episode, it's just this weird glimpse into like this parallel universe of what gaming could have been.
Yep.
You know, like you had the one you could plug into your computer.
Yeah.
And all this other, just like all these things that gaming could, if things were a little different, gaming could have went off in that direction, but it didn't, and we ended up in the track we're on now. But yeah.
What a mess.
A little dip into alternate history.
Yeah, I'm really glad that it went the way it did. I feel like it for the consumer.
Oh yes,
the consumer won this battle. Mm-hmm. Again, 3DO, as I said last episode.
Yeah,
pyramid scheme.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just a total mess.
Yeah,
Trip Hawkins, very interesting idea.
Yeah, interesting. Nice shot, but
yeah.
Hey man, nice shot.
I was just going to say that.
Yep.
We're all sorts of 90s music tonight. All right, let's get this show on the road so I can get editing.
Okay.
All right, what do you want us to talk about next week? Because we just, we'll talk about whatever you want us to. Anything. Just support us on Patreon.
First comment. There we go.
Yeah? We'll do whatever the first comment says?
No, probably not.
I hope it's the end gauge.
We already had some comments about that.
Yep.
Yes, we did.
Which means it might be coming. Who knows? For Gaming Without Parole, I'm Brian.
I'm Desra.
And we'll see you next week.